Hi there, welcome to theclearskinessentials.com. I'm Natasha St. Michael, and here at the Clear Skin Essentials, we're always talking about how to clear out breakouts and adult acne naturally through diet and skincare. And today I want to talk about diet, and I specifically want to talk about if you're on a diet that you're like eliminating all these acne trigger foods, but you're still not getting results. Okay, I know that some of you have written me saying, Natasha, I've taken out like the dairy products and the gluten and the sugar and like all this stuff. And you're like, and my skin is still a mess. What's going on? This is terribly frustrating. I hate it. I get it. I've been there myself. Many years ago, I thought I was on like a super healthy diet and I'd taken out like all the acne trigger foods, and my skin was only like progressively getting worse. And it was incredibly frustrating. And it went on for years like this. And I'll talk more about that story at the end of this video. But what I want to do is I want to give you suggestions. I want to give you like a few action steps, things you can start doing now to turn the situation around so that you can start getting results. So the first thing is that I want you to kind of take a step out of what you're doing. Okay, because if you end up taking out too many things out of your diet all at once, okay, let's say you're like taking out like the dairy and the gluten and the sugar and like all this stuff out at once, is that sometimes you're putting yourself in a zone that you're going to run into either deficiencies or you're not getting enough nutrition. Or you're putting yourself sort of like in the yo-yo diet zone where you take so much out of your diet that you're only able to sustain it for like a few weeks, and then eventually you end up like binging on all those foods that you took out. And for a lot of people, they run into issues where it's like almost like they take too much foods out of their diet that eventually they just go back to those foods and eat more of it, and they might end up like yo-yoing where it's like they get off of it, then they go back on, and then they're off, and then they're on, and that is terrible for your skin. Okay, and at the same time, taking too many food groups and too many foods out of your diet can also be destructive for your skin as well, especially if you're not getting the nutrients you need from other foods. So my recommendation is for those of you that are just in this situation where you've like taken everything out of your diet, there's barely anything to choose from, and you're just completely frustrated and you feel just overwhelmed with like what you can and cannot eat, my recommendation is to take a step out of this situation and start with a clean slate. And I just want you to ask yourself, what is one food that you know messes up your skin, that gives you breakouts, that like you know, you're pretty sure like this is just not working for you, okay? And for 1 month, I just want you to work on staying off of that one food and not worry about the rest. So you're not taking out like 5 food groups at once, but you're just working on one thing. And for some of you, that might be dairy products. For some of you, it might be coffee, or it might be sugar, or it might be staying off of soda, or it might even be what you're adding into your diet that you feel helps your skin. So it could be like you're focusing on having more vegetables and you're not worrying about what not to eat, but more about what helps by eating more of, okay? Really, you want to put yourself in sort of like a stress-free zone where it's one thing, you focus on it and you be consistent with it. Because I find sometimes if you're taking way too many things out at once, if you're overwhelmed by that, if you feel like you're deprived, if you feel like you're just, you know, at your wit's end with it, that stress is also what's going to just contribute to more flare-ups in your skin. And if you're feeling deprived, then you might actually be deprived, that you're not getting the proper nutrition you need. And the one thing is that I don't want you taking out more things than you need to take out. Really what you need to do on sort of the journey of clearing up your skin is figuring out what are those trigger foods for you that don't work for your skin. Not what are those trigger foods for everyone that you just need to take out. Because for one person, dairy products are terrible, but for another person, it really doesn't make a difference on their skin. And if it doesn't make a difference on their skin, then there's no reason for them to have to take it out. And then another suggestion I have too is to be objective and to ask yourself, is there anything in your diet that you are attached to? And what that means is there anything that might not be good for your skin that you don't want to change. And this is a very, very delicate situation, okay? And because what that means is that sometimes we envision how we should clear up our skin needs to be a certain way, and maybe that way isn't the best way for you. And I can give the example of myself is that I used to be a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for 25 years. Up until I was 35 years old, I never even had a steak in my entire life. Okay, that's a long time to be a vegetarian. And all my teenage years, my entire 20s, I had the worst skin on earth. Okay, it was just, it get worse and worse and worse. But I thought, you know, my vegetarian diet is a healthy diet and it should be good for my skin. And at points I tried being a vegan and all this stuff, but everything just made my skin worse. And it was only until I was in my early 30s that I went on to a raw vegan diet that my skin cleared up. And I was on a very, very, very strict, very kind of deprivational raw vegan diet for 4 years. Okay, and I didn't like, I didn't detour at all. I was really like, this is what I got to do. And I was able to clear up my skin. My skin was great. But I realized that the only way I can be a vegetarian and have clear skin is if I'm on a raw vegan diet. If I go back to eating a cooked food vegetarian diet or cooked food vegan diet, my skin will be terrible. And eventually I developed all sorts of deficiencies on the raw vegan diet. It wasn't sustainable and I got off of it. And I had all these people saying to me, oh, once you get off the raw vegan diet, your skin's gonna get terrible again. And I was scared. But I knew at the same time, like I couldn't go on having these deficiencies. I couldn't, it was time for me to try something else. And at that time I had B12 deficiencies that I ended up including like starting to eat animal foods again, and my skin remained clear and it actually got better because during that time I learned what was working for my skin and what wasn't. And it taught me a big lesson was that I realized for myself was that I was very attached to being a vegetarian. This was all I kind of knew. But at the same time, it wasn't necessarily something that was the best for me. You know, so I'm not saying if you're watching this video now and you are a vegetarian that this is, you know, terrible for you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying sometimes we need to like take a step out of the situation and ask ourselves like, am I too attached to something that might actually not be so good for me? And I see this not only with vegetarians, but I see it too. Like I get clients all the time coming to me that are on a paleo diet or ketogenic diet or like all sorts of different diets, macrobiotic, like everything. And because they're on these healthy diets and they're like, you know what, my skin's not getting better and everyone else's skin's getting better and why isn't mine? And sometimes that diet just might not suit your body and your body's composition. You know, everyone's different. And sometimes you can still stay on that diet, but you need to make the tweaks and adjustments. Whereas other times you really need to try something completely different. You know, so I'm just putting this out there for you to think about, like, is there anything that you're kind of resistant about ever changing that might actually be standing in your way? All right, and these are my tips, and if you enjoyed this video and you want more tips on how to clear up your skin through diet and skincare, do subscribe to my channel. And plus I have a free email course that's like packed with like so many tips on how to clear up your skin naturally. So I will put a link to that below too. Wishing everyone a fabulous day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.